None may stand against Space Marines.
The Maelstrom Warders were once an alliance of mighty and noble Space Marine chapters. Yet due to the Imperium's negligence, they have fallen far and hard since those days. These chapters were all specifically chosen to watch over the Maelstrom Zone, an area plagued by a warcraft known as the Maelstrom. Reality and unreality meet in this treacherous place, yet the worlds are of extreme importance to the Imperium. For many years, this area of space was plagued by the mutant, heretic, and Xenos, and it was all but lost to the Imperium until the Maelstrom Wardens were formed. The Space Marines of the Astral Claws, Lamenters, Charnel Guard, and Mantis Warriors created an unbreakable wall of honor and steel. Driving back the enemies of man, they brought the most security the zone had seen in millennia. Suddenly, without warning, the High Lords of Terra took the Charnel Guard out of the Wardens and sent them elsewhere. This ended the current campaign, and despite the Astral Claws' requests, a replacement was never sent. This was the beginning of the seeds of spite for the Warders.
Perhaps the Emperor could give you. I will not!
The Astral Claws were one of the greatest Space Marine chapters to ever exist, yet they now stand as one of the Imperium's greatest enemies. Millennia ago, this chapter fought in dozens of major conflicts in defense of the Imperium, including a Black Crusade. They formed bonds of brotherhood with multiple chapters, and were lauded as some of the greatest heroes in Imperial history. They were pure, honorable, and good warriors. Multiple successor chapters were made from their gene seed, and the Astral Claws were chosen to lead the Space Marine group known as the Maelstrom Warders. Chapter Master Luft Huron claimed ownership of the Badab system. He was determined to retake the Maelstrom and bring peace once and for all to the worlds plagued by its evil. Sadly, the Imperium did not see his quest as important and still demanded he pay taxes and tithes, making his endeavor impossible. Huron refused as he gathered his strengths to lead perhaps the greatest victory the Imperium had seen in the last 10,000 years. This victory never happened as the Imperium sent forces to claim Huron's resources and the rebellion began.
The enemy is in our sights. Attack!
The Mantis Warriors are a Space Marine chapter of incredible cunning who heavily employ the use of guerrilla tactics. They are one of the few chapters who forsake their colors and cover themselves with camouflage. Using hit-and-run tactics, the Mantis Warriors are a shock to the enemies of man, as these strategies are highly unusual for Space Marines. They bear White Scar's gene seed, yet their love for speed lies in lightning-fast coup de grace ambushes. These Marines are masters of stealth, misdirection, and deception, using this cunning to lure an enemy into the perfect spot, then pouncing from the shadows and obliterating them. The chapter has incredibly skilled hunter and sniper units, able to track and slay any foe they set out for. The Mantis Warriors were part of the Maelstrom Warders and fought for Luft Huron in the Badab War. They were seen as deceived and were forgiven after undergoing a penitent crusade. Since this time, they have developed an odd mutation in their gene seed that causes the Battle Brothers to be overcome with reverence for the Emperor.
Scream! I will not hear you!
The Charnel Guard are a Space Marine chapter who truly embody the vampiric nature of the Blood Angels. They are odd and disturbing Marines. Their gene seed generated a peculiar flaw that makes them appear as corpses. Gray flesh, milky white eyes, particularly long canines, and the stench of death are all part of these Marines' physiology. Like all Blood Angels, they bear a thirst for blood. But even more, the Charnel Guard lock themselves away in stasis crypts between combat. They are a dark and morbid chapter, with a way of war that brings total and merciless ruin to all those who oppose them. They are mysterious, containing old relics of the Imperium, not seen in almost any chapters today. The Marines were once part of the Maelstrom Warders, but were directed to other war zones at a pivotal moment during one of Luft Huron's campaigns. They now stand as part of the Triarchy, an allegiance between the Angels Numinous and the Red Seraphs. They roam the Imperium Nihilus as a fleet-based chapter, slumbering in motionless sleep, awaiting the day that they are to be unleashed upon the Emperor's enemies.
You will pay dearly for my brother's life!
The Lamenters are a Space Marine chapter of honor, humility, humanity, devotion, and sorrow. They hail from the 21st Cursed Founding, being Blood Angel's successors, and these sons of Sanguinius perfectly embody their Primarch's humanity and compassion. Yet fate dealt them an undeserved hand of tragedy and misfortune. Their fellow Space Marines saw them as cursed, and so the Mortifactors abandoned the Lamenters to fight alone against the Black Legion. The pure of heart and stalwart warriors refused to leave the populace, despite facing sure defeat. This resulted in 800 dead Battle Brothers. The chapter was deceived into joining Luft Huron in the Badab War, and would be decimated by the Minotaur's chapter. As penance, they would be sentenced to a 100-year crusade, in which High Fleet Kraken reduced their numbers to a handful of Marines. Even after all this, they still uphold justice, they still fight on, and they will never bow, never break, and never give up.